Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Nirvana deck profile for post-awakening of Chakrabarthi. With the latest Cardfight Vanguard Overdress set, we were introduced to the grade 4 units for most of our main decks from this set. Really awesome support that helps with the overall power of all the decks, especially Nirvana getting its grade 4, which allows it to retire your opponent's damage. I say retire damage, but deal 1 damage to your opponent, along with all of the original setup of the grade 3 Nirvana. Very happy with the results of the deck. It just is immensely a big boost that the deck needed to compete with a lot of the other decks in Overdress format. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So as always, we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck, consisting of Sunrise Egg, just being the standard when this unit is rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. The grade 1 for the ride deck is Blaze Maiden Reno. When this unit is rode upon by Blaze Maiden Rayu, you can search your deck for a Trickstar and call it to rear, being the main setup for all your Overdress plays. Very important. Grade 2 is Blaze Maiden Rayu. When this unit is rode upon by Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana, Soul Blast 1 and search your deck for a Virena. You never really use the rear guard power pluses for these cards, but they do work on Vanguard, so you are attacking with 10 and 12 for both of them. With the last card being our Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana. This is actually the only copy of this card I want to run in the deck. Just getting to your grade 4 is so much more important for your setup. So with it, it will be ideally the only grade 3 Nirvana you run in the deck, with its plus 10,000 power for a counterblast to all of your units with Overdress in the front row, and a once per turn discarding a card from your hand to choose a grade 0 from your drop zone and calling it to rear. For the grade 4s that we run in the deck, because there's more than one, I do want to run 4 of the Chakrabarthi True Dragon Mahar Nirvana. I only have 3. I put 1 Nirvana, which you can just slowly replace as you gather up this grade 4. During your turn, if you have a unit within the Overdress state, all of your front row gets plus 10,000 power, immensely better because it saves on a counterblast that you would have had to use with Nirvana to make use of. And it also gives it to the front row, so even if you have a unit that's not an Overdress unit, you'll still get that plus 10 to it. And on Vanguard, once per turn, counterblast 1, put a card with Nirvana and its card name from your hand or soul into your drop zone. Choose a grade 0 from your drop zone, call it to rear. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and if your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, deal 1 damage. So it doesn't negate the trigger effects, but still being able to deal 1 damage can just add on to the pressure of all the attacks your opponent will have to block against your units. Calling the Trickstar will set up your Overdress, as long as you have the Nirvana. So it can be in your hand, it can be the grade 4 Nirvana, it can be the one that was in the soul that you initially rode upon. You have all this set up thanks to this card, and makes it that much more scary of a deck. For the other grade 4, being one of the Overdress units, and that is Virena, Espero, Radia. This is an Overdress unit that needs Trickstar for the Overdress. When this unit is placed on rear, if it is an Overdress, put all Trickstar and cards with Overdress ability from your drop zone as this unit's original dress. And on rear, once per turn, when your Vanguard attacks, Soul Blast 1, stand this unit. And if this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn for each of this unit's original dress. This can really add up the power with all the other Overdress cards you have in your drop zone added into this card. Immensely powerful state, and the fact that it can restand when your Vanguard attacks means that you'll ideally want to attack with this card first, with your opponent on top of also getting an additional damage thanks to your Mahar Nirvana, having the restand pressure if you get a critical trigger, or even scarily an over trigger, even more power to attack with this card. And also, that's it for the grade 4s. Moving on now to the grade 3s. I run 2 Virena Expecta, just another great pressure unit, having the additional critical for a counterblast, and then considering all of the original dress's power. This can be pressure against your opponent, setting up also Trickstars in the drop zone for you to then reuse with your grade 4 the following turn. And I also run 2 of the Virena Valiente. Urger is no longer used in the deck, just for the fact that it doesn't work with the grade 4 Mahar Nirvana. You have to have the Chakrabarthi Divine Dragon Nirvana for Urger to work, so we took it out of the deck and added in more of the grade 3 backup support, since Virena Valiente just has to have the Overdress state, and then having the restand power when its attack hits one of your opponent's cards just by counterblasting and discarding a card. That's it for the grade 3s as well. Moving on now to the grade 2s. It's remained one of the most important cards in the deck just due to the draw power, and that is Virena Arcs. You need that draw power even more to draw into either the grade 4 Virena or your grade 4 Nirvana, because then you'll need it for the ride target hits. Just drawing or drive checking into it is the best, most reliable way that you will add those cards to your hand. So 4 Virena Arcs definitely does come in handy as just additional cards for the early game Overdress as well when you're on your grade 2 ride. And then lastly, for the grade 2s, I'm down to just one Virena for the search off of the Rayu Nirvana ride skill. It's risky. You could potentially damage check it, but other than that, there are just a lot of spots in the deck that are needed for other positions, so you really only need the one. It really happens very rarely where this card will end up in the damage zone for me, and just I'll have it in my hand that much more quickly if I didn't already drive check or draw it earlier on in the game. Normally, also, when I'm, reshuffling back, I end up putting it on the bottom of the deck just for a better chance for me not to draw into it, since you do draw before shuffling your deck again. That is it for the grade 2s. Now, moving on to the grade 1s. Still running 4 of the Blaze Maiden Ximena. When this unit is placed on rear, counterblast 1, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 card with Overdress ability from among them. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this is just more search power. There's no restriction for the Overdress. You can even search Virena Espero Radia for the search power with this card. Very, very useful. You don't really use your counterblast much with the other cards. Soul Blasting for the Virena Espero Radia. So you have this option for the counterblast and additional countercharging power with the other new grade 1, and that is Blaze Pole Monk Retsuji. When this unit is placed on rear, you counterblast 1, choose up to 1 of your cards with Overdress from your drop zone, put it into your hand, and if your Vanguard is grade 4, countercharge 1, making up for that power and the potential that you may have had to set up some other cards on the field, adding back your Espero, let's say with the discard you may have had to do with your grade 3 Nirvana during that turn. If you can at least recycle it back to your hand, you can then use the Nirvana Retire skill to set up the Trick Star to then Overdress with that card on the field. And then lastly, for the grade 1s, just 4 of the Twin Buckler Dragon Sentinel. It's, just ideally staple in any of the Overdress decks with the non-discard needed if you have the 1 card in hand, making it that much easier to guard against any of your opponent's attacks. For the grade 0s, before we get to the triggers, you do run the 4 Trick Star. It's very, very important in the deck. It's all your Overdress abilities with this card. It can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects, so very, very useful in decks if you just use it as a booster for Prison. Very rarely does that happen. It's mostly just here to provide that Overdress power, being able to also add additional power boost to the latest grade 4 Overdress Virena. And then as for the trigger units, I'm still running the 8 criticals. So 4 of the Burning Flail Dragon with the Put in the Soul plus 2,000 skill, and 4 of the Blaze Maiden Zone. I just like the extra pressure that you get with the critical, especially against your opponent. I thought of using front triggers, but the crits just add more for the restand power. So if you, attack with your Vanguard and they perfect guard it, at least if you restand your Virena grade 4, again, with its own skill, you can give the additional critical power to it, having an immense power against your opponent. With the last spot being the new draw trigger. 3 of them, Flare, Veil. I even thought of running 4. I might take out one of the criticals for an additional spot for this. It's just a good card if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, making this unit plus 5,000 shield. So it's a 10k guard against your opponent, making up for a lot of draw triggers that just didn't have this shield power. And also the 4 heal triggers still remain the same, the 4 Blaze Maiden Rona, and lastly the 1 Dragon Deity Dragveda, as more restand power, especially with your grade 4 that has triple drive, makes it all the more scary when you restand and then triple drive again. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm definitely excited to do more and more testing with the Nirvana deck with all this new support. I'll be filming a lot of games with it as well, so look forward to all the many different matchups. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.